My 3-year-old son hadn't spoken a single word since his mother died. Doctors, therapists, specialists, nobody could reach him. Then a 23-year-old intern walked into my office, and my silent boy whispered his first word in 2 years. He called her Mom. That moment changed everything I thought I knew about love. If you believe in second chances and unexpected love, you're in the right place. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stick around, because this story will restore your faith in destiny. Trust me, you won't see this ending coming. My name is Christopher Hayes, and 2 years ago, I became both a billionaire and a single father on the same day. Not literally the same day, but close enough that the two identities merged into one exhausting reality. I run a tech empire worth $4.2 billion. I have 3,000 employees, offices in 12 countries, and a corner office with a view that most people would kill for. But none of that mattered the night I got the call that my wife's car had been hit by a drunk driver on the interstate. She died instantly. They told me she didn't suffer. I held our 14-month-old son, Oliver, and wondered how that information was supposed to help either of us. Oliver was too young to understand death, but he understood absence. In the weeks after we lost her, he changed. He'd been on the verge of talking, saying mama and dada and more with that proud toddler enthusiasm. But after she was gone, he just stopped. The words dried up like a river in drought. By his second birthday, he still wasn't speaking. By his third, specialists were using terms like selective mutism and trauma response and psychological barriers. They all said the same thing. Nothing was physically wrong. Oliver could speak. He just chose not to, or couldn't. Even the experts weren't really sure which. I threw money at the problem because that's what I knew how to do. The best child psychologists in the country, speech therapists who flew in from London, a developmental specialist from Johns Hopkins who charged $500 an hour to play with blocks on my living room floor. Nothing worked. Oliver remained silent, locked in a world I couldn't reach. And every night I looked at my quiet, sad little boy and felt like I was failing the one job that actually mattered. My life became a loop: work, guilt, sleep, repeat. I ran my company with an iron fist because at least that was something I could control. I couldn't make my son speak, but I could close a merger or fire an incompetent executive. My parents helped with Oliver, and we went through nannies like tissues. They'd last a few weeks, then quit, saying Oliver was too withdrawn, too difficult, too heartbreaking. I didn't blame them. Sometimes I wanted to quit too. Then came the summer internship program. My head of HR had been pushing for it, some diversity initiative that I'd approved without paying much attention. 50 college students, 12 weeks, various departments. I was supposed to give a welcome speech, which I hated. I hated most things that pulled me away from actual work. But the board thought it was good PR, so I put it on my calendar and forgot about it. The morning of the orientation, my nanny called in sick. Just my luck. I had no choice but to bring Oliver to the office. He sat in the corner with his toys, silent as always, while I answered emails and took calls. He was good at being quiet. Too good. Sometimes I'd forget he was there until I'd see his little form hunched over a toy car, and my heart would crack all over again. I was in the middle of a conference call when someone knocked on my door. Not the timid knock of my assistant, but an uncertain, almost apologetic tap. I barked, "Come in," louder than necessary, annoyed at the interruption. The door opened and a young woman stepped in, looking absolutely mortified. She was black, probably early 20s, wearing khakis and a blazer that looked brand new. An intern lanyard hung around her neck. "I'm so sorry," she said immediately, her eyes wide. "I was looking for the restroom and I think I got off on the wrong floor." "I didn't mean to." "Executive floor." I cut her off. "Bathrooms are on 12. You want 14. "Right. I'm so sorry, Mr. Hayes. I'll just—" That's when it happened. Oliver stood up. My son, who barely acknowledged strangers, who showed interest in almost nothing, stood up and walked toward this woman. I watched, frozen, as he crossed my office and stopped right in front of her. She looked down at him, surprised, and her expression softened into something so genuinely warm it almost hurt to see. "Hey there," she said gently, crouching down to his level. I'm sorry for barging in on you too. Oliver reached for her hand. And then, in a voice I hadn't heard in 2 years, he whispered, Mom. The word hung in the air like a prayer. I couldn't breathe. This intern, this stranger, had tears instantly streaming down her face. Oliver hadn't let go of her hand. Oh, sweetie, she whispered, her voice breaking. I'm not. But she couldn't finish because Oliver was leaning into her, and she instinctively put her arm around him. And my son, my silent, unreachable son, made a small, contented sound. I found my voice. What's your name? Autumn Mitchell, she said, looking up at me with those tear-filled eyes. I'm in the engineering program. I'm so sorry, I should go. Wait. The word came out sharper than I intended. Oliver had turned his face into her shoulder, and I could see his little hand gripping her blazer. Just wait a moment. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that my son had spoken for the first time in 2 years, and this woman was somehow the reason. When she tried to gently extract herself, Oliver started making distress sounds. Not words, but more emotion than I'd seen from him in months. Could you stay? I asked, and I hated how desperate I sounded. Just for a few minutes? Autumn looked uncertain, but she nodded. She sat down on my office floor, and Oliver climbed into her lap like he'd known her his entire life. She talked to him quietly about his toys, asking gentle questions she didn't expect him to answer. And Oliver, my beautiful broken boy, looked at her like she'd hung the moon. I made a decision then that seemed crazy, but felt right. After I learned she was in the 12-week intern program, I asked if she'd be willing to spend time with Oliver. I'd pay her separately, adjust her schedule, whatever she needed. It was highly irregular, probably inappropriate, definitely unprecedented. But when I looked at my son's face as he held this stranger's hand, I didn't care about appropriate. Autumn was hesitant. I could see her working through the weirdness of it, the power dynamics, the sheer strangeness of her CEO asking her to babysit. But she looked at Oliver, and something in her expression shifted. Okay, she said. I'll try. Those 3 afternoons a week became the center of my universe. Autumn would arrive at 4, and Oliver would light up in ways I didn't think were possible anymore. She'd sit with him and read stories, play simple games, talk to him about everything and nothing. And slowly, painfully slowly, Oliver started making sounds again. Little attempts at words. Oh, for autumn, ju for juice, pue for play. His speech therapist called it miraculous. I called it autumn. I started rearranging my schedule to be there during her visits. At first, I told myself it was to observe Oliver's progress. Then I admitted I wanted to understand what made her different. How did a 23-year-old college student reach my son when specialists with decades of experience couldn't? I learned her story in pieces. She'd been raised by a single mother who worked as a nurse, pulling double shifts to keep them afloat. Autumn was the first person in her family to attend college. She was studying engineering because she wanted to design sustainable technology to make the world better in concrete, measurable ways. She was brilliant and kind and treated me like I was just a father struggling with his son, not a billionaire with more money than God. We talked. Really talked. I told her about my wife, about the crushing guilt of not being able to help Oliver, about feeling like I was drowning while the rest of the world saw only my success. She shared her own grief. Her father had died when she was 10. She understood childhood loss in ways I couldn't. She understood Oliver. Coffee became dinner. Conversations stretched longer. I caught myself thinking about her between meetings, wondering what she'd think about a decision I needed to make, anticipating her smile when she arrived. I was falling in love with her. The realization hit me one evening as I watched her laugh at something Oliver had attempted to say. The sound of her joy filled my apartment in a way it hadn't been filled since my wife died, and I thought, this is what happiness feels like. I'd forgotten, but the complications were staggering. I was her boss's boss's boss. I was 34 to her 23. 11 years felt like a canyon. I ran a predominantly white tech company, and she was a black woman already navigating waters where people looked for reasons to dismiss her competence. And Oliver, God, Oliver was so attached to her. If this went wrong, If we tried and failed, it wouldn't just break my heart. It would devastate my son all over again. I noticed the way Autumn looked at me too, the way her smile changed when I walked into the room, how she'd ask about my day with genuine interest. But she never crossed a line. She was painfully professional, probably because she thought I was untouchable. Then the rumors started. People noticed the intern who got special access to the CEO's home. Whispers traveled through the office. She was using Oliver to climb the ladder, sleeping her way to the top, playing a game. My HR director brought concerns about optics and appropriate boundaries. I was furious, but part of me knew they were right about one thing. This situation couldn't continue as it was. Something had to change. I asked Autumn to stay after Oliver went to bed one night. She looked nervous, probably thought she was being fired. I could see her bracing for it. I have feelings for you, I said, because I'd built an empire by being direct. Romantic feelings. And I need you to know that before we continue any arrangement. Her eyes went wide. For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then quietly, I feel the same way. The relief was overwhelming, but we both knew it wasn't that simple. My position, her internship, Oliver's fragile progress. What if we tried this and it fell apart? What if it didn't work and she had to leave, and Oliver lost another person he loved? We made the mature, responsible decision. We'd keep our distance until her internship ended, 8 more weeks. Then we could explore whatever this was without the complication of our professional relationship. It was the right call. It was also torture. Autumn stopped coming to see Oliver. He didn't understand. His speech regressed slightly, and the light in his eyes dimmed. I was miserable, snapping at my executives and staring at my phone, hoping she'd text. Autumn threw herself into her final project, and I heard through the grapevine that she was working 16-hour days. We were both idiots. A week into our self-imposed separation, I picked Oliver up from preschool. His teacher pulled me aside with a strange expression. "Oliver spoke today," she said. A full sentence. My heart leaped. "What did he say?" He said, "I miss Autumn. Daddy sad too." I looked down at my son, this wise little person who'd been watching me closer than I realized. He looked back at me with those serious eyes, and I understood. I'd been so afraid of him getting hurt that I was hurting him. We were both miserable without her. What was the point of protecting him from potential pain if we were living in actual pain? The intern presentations were the next day. Final projects, the culmination of 12 weeks of work. I cleared my schedule and brought Oliver with me. Autumn was scheduled to present last. When she took the stage with her sustainable technology design, I'd never been more proud of someone in my life. She was brilliant. She'd earned every bit of success coming her way, regardless of anything between us. After the presentations ended and people filtered out, I waited. Oliver's hand was in mine. When Autumn saw us, she stopped dead. Tears filled her eyes immediately. Oliver didn't wait for permission. He pulled his hand from mine and ran to her, throwing his little arms around her legs. "Autumn," he said clearly, "you came back." She picked him up, and he wrapped around her like a monkey, and she was crying and laughing at the same time. I walked over slowly. "I've been a coward," I said. "Yes, this is complicated. Yes, there are professional considerations and age differences, and probably 100 reasons we should be careful. But Oliver chose you, and my heart chose you. And I'm done being afraid of what might go wrong. I want to find out what might go right." "Christopher," she whispered, "will you take a chance on us?" I asked. "On me, on him, on this weird, unexpected thing that started when you walked into the wrong office." She looked at Oliver, then at me. "Yes," she said. "God, yes. That was 2 years ago. Oliver is 5 now and won't stop talking. Seriously, the kid narrates his entire day. Autumn finished her degree with top honors and now works as a lead engineer at my company. Not because I handed her the job, but because her sustainable tech designs revolutionized our entire product line. She earned every bit of her success. We got married 6 months ago. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Oliver was our ring bearer. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Oliver raised his hand and said, "I told Daddy she was Mommy." Everyone laughed, but he was right. Sometimes a 3-year-old knows what adults are too scared to see. Love doesn't always arrive the way we expect. Sometimes it walks into the wrong office and whispers a single word that changes everything. Sometimes it takes a child's wisdom to show us what we're too afraid to reach for ourselves. Sometimes the most unexpected person becomes the most essential one. I thought I knew what love was. Then autumn taught me it could be even bigger than I imagined. Sometimes love doesn't arrive the way we expect. Sometimes it walks into the wrong office and whispers a single word that changes everything. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories about hope, healing, and unexpected second chances. Drop a comment telling me, do you believe in destiny? See you in the next one.